Hello and welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Ayman Khan here with Miss GB, Miss Headliner, Miss Unified Super Welterweight Champion, looking to add another belt to her collection. The one and only Tasha Jonas, who takes on Marie Eve Dicaire on the 12th of November. Tasha, how are you doing?
I'm good, yeah, I feel good.
Feel good? Just finished the session?
Yeah, not long ago, just a little plod, just the, cool down thing, can't everything.
I was looking at your kind of last year, and the way I'd summarize it, I think you'd probably say the same, is activity, title fights. It seems to be the perfect year for you since you joined boxing. Really pushed female fighting and yourself to get opportunities and you to then take them over this last year. Would you say that's the fairest way to look back at your last year so far?
Yeah, definitely. I've always said I like an active Tasha is a dangerous one. I've always said I was world level, but never quite got well. I got the opportunities and never quite got the results. Um, but yeah, these since going up, it's all changed. And every time Ben keeps saying, "Do you want to do this?" I think he keeps saying, "I'm gonna think," and I'm gonna say no, and I keep on saying yeah. So, do you want to go to 154? Yeah, yeah, I'll do it. Do you want to stay at 154? Yeah, I'll do it. Do you want to get another title at 154? Yeah, I'll do it. So, if he keeps providing the opportunities, I'll keep taking it.
Is that did you kind of expect to be in this position considering you had some difficulties last time on with different promoters, you moved promoters, and maybe boxing for you might not have been, or you might not have seen the light at the end of the tunnel at that point. So do you expect to be in this position, maybe looking back at it from days when maybe you're a bit more frustrated by the opportunities you weren't getting?
Um, it's tough because some opportunities are harder than like a new kind of leave a matchroom that some title opportunities would be more difficult to get, and I planned to put myself in like mandatory positions to do that. But then, when people are so close to the mandatory themselves, then they don't want to take a big risk to fight you. So it's not always the promoters and stuff. Um, it's not always them that can't get the fight. Some people genuinely just don't want to take that risk. And when you've got a lot of risk and no reward, people don't want to fight.
Hmm.
So for me now, when I'm bringing something to the table and I have got the titles and I have got like um the force of Ben behind me and people are willing to more willing to take them risks. So it's a bit easier now to get that. But before that, before 12 months ago, like, after the people see Terry Harper performance, they see the Katie performance, and they're like, she's a lot of risk and she doesn't bring nothing to the table. So it is harder to make them fight. But, now I feel like all I ever wanted was options and, the belts and winning get you that. So yeah. Sorry, did that even answer your question? What was the start
Oh
of your
yeah,
question?
it was a good answer. And speaking of risk, as you mentioned there, it's a risky fight for yourself. It's a risky fight for Marie Dicaire. She's seen as the number one in the division. It's also a southpaw like yourself. What are the dangers you feel she poses to you when you both meet in the ring?
I think, I've been quite fortunate with Bergalt and Namas that they was quite a bit under the 154 limit. So that really meant that we were getting in the ring near enough the same weight. I do think that um the care will be, naturally a lot bigger. She's got long levers. She's good with her feet. Um, got good hands. So yeah, you know how meticulous Joe is with his planning. We prepare for every eventuality and every version of her being the best. So we've got an answer for everything. So
I mentioned her being a southpaw like yourself. Looking through your record, if I'm correct, you haven't fought a southpaw in the professional ranks, or if you have, it might have been way back earlier in your career, but most of them being orthodox opponents. Is it specifically hard to get southpaw female sparring in for this one, or in general?
yeah, it is. It's been very hard because you go to the pool of women, which is already quite small, and then you go to the pool of women that are 154 or round about that weight, and then then you're looking for a southpaw, and that's really hard to find. I don't know how many natural southpaws there is in the UK that are carded, so it's been a struggle. We've had to get a few lads, which we always do anyway. We've got, but we've managed to find like some elite fighters in Brie, in some of the GB setup as well. So it's been tough, but we like I say, Joe's so meticulous that we already had that covered before camp had even started.
Yeah, because I suppose when females are looking for sparring from themselves, they'd come to you for it, and you can't essentially go to yourself this time round, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just a very small pool, and then there was the likes of like Lauren Price and Caroline Dubois, who are also southpaws. You know, they just fought, so it's hard to get sparring with them because the last thing you want to do is when you've just fought is spar yourself. So yeah, so it was tough. It was tough.
With that said, then with your preparation under the tutelage of Joe Gallagher and the tape you might have seen of Dicaire, how do you expect the fight to play out when you step through the ropes?
Honestly, you never know. You always have plans and visions of what they're going to do and what they're going to bring, but one punch and it changes. One you have to adapt while you're in there, which is why we have all bases covered. So yeah, I expect 10 tough rounds. That's what I prepare my body for. It's that it is going to be tough, and she is going to be hard, and she is going to be strong, and she is going to present the best version of herself. So
Win against Dicaire as you plan to do, and it's you and Harper who stand in each other's way of undisputed at super welter. Does that, in your eyes, make the most sense given the history and where you both stand right now?
it does make sense. There's loads of fights that make sense. Claressa makes sense. McCaskill makes sense. Harper makes sense. They all make sense, but without winning Dicaire, none of them happen. So I have to focus on just the fight in front of me. And to be honest, within the last year since 2022 started, I've had like I think five weeks off. So I'm gonna go away after this fight and enjoy my time with my little girl and get away on holiday and not think about boxing and come back, and then me, Joe, and Ben will decide on the next steps come 2023.
Yeah, there could be potentially be a lot of fighters want a piece of you. You mentioned their name specifically, who was in a very high profile fight recently. That being Claressa Shields, who kind of put your name out there. Were you kind of surprised to see her put your name out there and specifically target yourself?
No, I think it makes sense. I think I don't think she'll struggle for fights, but I do think people are, seeing how good she was that night and would be worried to fight, or they just see it as a big payday fight. And, she wants to be in big competitive fights, and she wants to be the best. So, a lot of the divisions 160 upwards don't really have that much competition for her that she hasn't already beaten. So it makes sense that now there is a bit of, myself and Terry are making a bit of noise at this division to come back down, and it's a weight that she has been before. It's not a weight that she can't make. She's been there before. So yeah, I totally understand it. And yeah, that would be a fight that I'd love to have, but like I say, I've got to beat Dicaire first.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but with the rise of the spotlight on female fighting, it's put the men to shame, having that we're seeing the best fights being made in recent months with the female fighting side taking Taylor Serrano, which looks to be being made again for Croke Park, or Shields Marshall, which happened recently. Why are the women seemingly more willing to jump in with each other when the men, it just seems like we don't seem to be getting fights right now. No one seems to want to jump in with each other.
I think sometimes with the men, maybe because there's so much, money involved, that the contracts are a lot harder to make. Um, and sometimes people don't want to lose their rank and their place, their stature, their thingy. But you know, a lot of these women, like your Mayas, like your Clarissas, like your Sabs, like your Taylors, like myself, we've come from elite amateur backgrounds where you can go to a tournament and you're selected to fight anyone, so you've got to be prepared to fight anyone. And I think we are bringing that into the pros, where we're prepared to fight anyone, and the likes of Baumgardner and Serrano are just exactly the same. They're not scared to fight anybody, and the women's fights are easier to make, maybe because that is of the commercial value of it, whatever it is, but they are easy to make. The women actually want to fight, and it seems as though there's a one belt isn't enough kind of air around the women. When you've won one belt, it just doesn't seem to be enough when undisputed is possible. So everyone wants to be that undisputed fighter. So I don't know why the men, it's so hard to do that with the men. But there is so many men's fights that we all want to see. Crawford Spence, AJ Fury, whoever it is, there's lots of fights out there to be made. But it just seems that, between broadcasters, between promoters, between money agreements and whatever, they just can't be made. And that we just don't have that problem.
Well, right now, speaking of yourself, you're doing a good job, whether it be inside the ring or outside the ring, with your punditry as well. So being a pundit, I just want to take your thoughts and pick your brain on a couple of things. First of all, if we just cast our mind back, with the dust having firmly settled now on Shields versus Marshall, what do you make of kind of that spectacle and the fight itself?
I think the actual event, the whole event, was unbelievable. I did think it would be hard to top the Taylor Serrano occasion, but I think as a whole event, it did, and surpassed it, because it was just, it was entertaining. It was great boxing. You had everything that you would want from a card. You had development, you had progression, and then you had the two main fights at the end. So yeah, I didn't expect Claressa, if I'm honest, was the standout star. She got booed in the ring and cheered going out. I knew she was good. I didn't know how good she was. That's honest. Baumgardner, I thought, that fight was. I did on the night, I think, give it to Maya, but you know, Baumgardner was, just competitive. There was a few close rounds in there as well. That, yeah, it was just a great night of boxing, and a women's boxing at its elite is just as good as the men's. So, and they proved that. When you've got an occasion, sometimes you have them like big fights, big fight nights or big fight cards, and the fights never kind of live up to the hype. But both of these fights were competitive, and yeah, that it lived up to the occasion. So it was good to see.
I want to pick up on a little comment that Claressa Shields made. She's mentioning of the rematch with Savannah Marshall. She said she doesn't know whether Savannah might want to retire. Do you know if that's potentially in the offing? Would you be surprised if Savannah Marshall did retire, given that a rematch could be in the offing down the line?
If she can get a rematch, I don't know if she'd retire, but I could. I don't get it, because she's so talented that she could. There's so many people for her to fight. But how do you top that moment?
Mm.
And where do you go do you go, even with pay, with whatever, do you drop back down and then, go and fight whoever? It'd be hard to have that moment and then come back down. Do you know what I mean? If you've for Khan and Brook, that was a big moment for them to step. That was another step up. But there's lots of pride on the line and ego and stuff. So, but after that, would you come back and just fight at nobody,
Mm.
or just not even a nobody, just like someone who's like in the eyes of like the regular fans just isn't on your level, or you know what I mean? So do you go back to that, or do you just call it a day, because that's as good as it's going to get? And I honestly, I'd understand it if she did. Will she? I hope not.
Are you not in a way an example of to not retire, given that big moments were round the corner for you? You kept on with it, and they're here now.
I'm not saying that she can't have other big moments. I'm not
Mm,
like, but I don't think there'll be a bigger moment than that
mm,
unless she gets a rematch. And I don't think she'd get the praise for it either. If she goes and beats Hannah Gabriels or, you know, not Cozen, she's already beat her, but, you know, she beats them type of people, everyone's like, she's not Clarissa though. You know, that's that.
mm,
And yeah, you can build yourself up to go back to Clarissa, but all it's going to end up being is her and Clarissa, because maybe Franchon Cruz as well, but they're the best in that division by a million miles. And so that's what I'm saying about the dropping back down. It's not. It sounds like disrespectful to the other fighters in the division, but they are so far ahead.
mm. Speaking of fighters who are far ahead, there's a debate going on right now in boxing circles as to who stands as the GOAT, with Shields and Taylor tussling for that title. In your eyes, who claims that crown?
Before that fight, I'd have said Katie easy. Um, After the fight, it's hard because, like, there doesn't need to just be one crown. They can both be great. I do think, as when it comes to competition, that there's a lot more like competition at lightweight and around that. Um, just being the sense of a lot more people and like a better standard. But then Clarissa can only beat who's in front of her, and I think, you know, if she could make 147 or 140 or whatever, then, you know, she'd still be as good as she is now. So it's hard. It's hard to make that. It's hard to make that.
Tasha,
So I'm
final.
not.
Oh, no worries. Tasha, final couple of things from me. I need a few predictions from you. First of all, that being a fight you'll keep an eye on this weekend: Chantal Cameron versus Jessica McCaskill. What would you make of that one?
think Chantal wins. But I don't think McCaskill makes it. It's not an easy win. I think Chantal's really up for her. Speaking to her recently, and it's been a long time since she's had that fire in her belly, and um, it was nice to see and hear. But I honestly don't think it's the McCaskill that, you know, that beat Katie. When you're a champion, you get that little bit of confidence. You train that little bit harder, that little bit better. The pressure's off, and it helps you grow as a fighter. And so I don't think she's fighting the McCaskill that beat Katie. Sorry, the McCaskill that got beaten by Katie. She's fighting a better version of that McCaskill. So it's not going to be easy. But Chantel is just, you know, she's non-stop. She's same in round one as she is in round 10. And you've got to combat that. She's a force to be reckoned with. So I'm going to say Chantel.
Talk of now Katie Taylor getting that homecoming back in Ireland, taking on Serrano in the rematch. What about that one? What do you make of that one too?
It's a tough fight for Katie. I don't take too much from the last performance, because I think we expect so much from her all the time. And you know, she has one little, I wouldn't say off, because she still won every round, but like, she has a little dip, and everyone's like, oh, she's not the same Katie, she's not the same this. And sometimes I just think you might just need that little bit of fear factor to get yourself up for a fight. And if every time that she's been asked to do that in like close fights, or what people deem as close, she does step up. So um you know, I think now both know what they're dealing with, and that makes for an even better fight. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 on that one. I don't know. I said I said I said for Katie the first time, but Serrano would cause her trouble, and she did. Um, and I still think that I probably would still edge that way. I think Serrano is just an absolute nightmare for anyone.
And your stablemate as well, or your gym mate, sorry, Paul Butler takes on Naoya Inoue December 13th. A lot of people understanding that it's a big task, but Paul Butler by no means ruling himself out. What do you make of that one too?
Yeah, obviously we're in the gym with him. We see what's going on and what's happening, and we know the plans. Well, we know the tactics, and if there's anyone in the gym that can stick to a tactic and a game plan, it's Paul Butler. I saw it firsthand first with Stewie Hall, and then again with Jonas Sultan. He didn't even get involved. He didn't get he barely got touched, and he knows it's a big task. We all know how dangerous a new A is, and they're not, Stewie Hall or Jonas Sultan, but if anyone can stick to a game plan, it's him.
Tasha, quick final thing that's jumped into my head. A lot of people are talking about it right now within boxing. It's the whole Conor Benn situation in terms of the positive test. Can I just get your quick thoughts on that one as well?
There isn't any thoughts to give, to be honest. Like, I don't know the full details. I only know what I see, and what I read. But obviously, there's a reason that us as fighters request for the testing, and promoters request it too, because it's the best test out there. It's more stringent, I want to say, than UKAD. I don't know how true that is either. But the UKAD tests are very few and far between. I think I'm only tested after fights for UKAD myself, which just isn't enough, if I'm honest. But from what has been displayed and what I've seen and read, it doesn't look good. And once you fail the test, you've already failed. You've got to prove yourself innocent, and I'd hate to, let's see if you can do that, but you're already guilty. If you failed, you're already guilty. You've got to prove yourself innocent. So that's how it stands. Like, I don't know enough about the situation, and like, if you've failed, you've failed. You're already guilty. You've got to prove yourself innocent.
I said final thing, and this is it. You step in through the ropes on the 12th of November against Marie Eve Dicaire. How does that fight end?
With me winning, and that's all I can say. I don't give predictions on rounds and stuff and knockouts and stuff. If that opportunity presents itself, 100% I'll take it. But like I said at the start, I'm expecting 10 hard rounds. That's what I prepare myself for. That's what I put myself and my body through hell in camp for. So yeah.
Tasha, real pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for speaking to SecondsOut, and I wish you all the best for your upcoming fight.
Nice one, thank you.
Cheers.